Okay guys, so here's another video that we're going to do. It's on pasture maintenance. So if anybody knows my farm, you will know we have a lot of pastures. And anybody who boards their horses somewhere isn't exactly going to... Here, let me turn this. Anyone who boards their horses somewhere isn't going to know really the full scope of what goes on in pasture management. So this is what we do to our paddocks. However, there is different types of pasture maintenance. And it's going to vary depending on your climate, your location, your soil, the types of grass you have, the amount of horses, etc., etc. So here on our farm, what we have is our top of our soil, we have a bit of sand and then it goes to clay, so it generally drains fairly well. This year I've already harrowed it, if you can't tell, so I've got a spot up there I didn't harrow. Harrowing, really this side, it's not the best harrow to use for the job, but it was just a diamond harrow pulled off of my side-by-side. Usually we have a giant chain harrow that runs off of our tractor, but just it had a bit of a mishap and it's missing a couple links right now, so until I get them fixed, that's what I'm using. I try to pick the paddocks and harrow them fairly regularly. This one, our harrow broke last year and we were super busy, so this paddock didn't get done, so I did it in spring. The paddock up there we did last winter, or last fall before the snow came. I try to harrow. The reasons why we harrow is because it helps to break up all the poop into these little pieces instead of big mounds. That helps the rain push the nutrients into the soil evenly. It also helps to open up that poop so that internal parasites don't survive. So another thing that we do when we do our spring paddock maintenance is I have a bucket here full of various types of grass seed. It's a few different mixes. It's actually the mix that I spread on my hayfield. And because this paddock has a couple, like right here you can see it's a bit of a bare spot. There's a stick there too. But there's a couple spots where last year I noticed the grass was a bit thin. So we're going to spread that today. Another thing we do when we do paddock maintenance is we check all of our fence lines. We do this every year before we put the horses in, and we do it several times throughout the year. We actually like to check fence lines at least once a week, if not more. Like a close-up of the fence lines once a week. We generally check them daily when we feed, as we feed grain up near the fence there, so you can kind of just take a look around and notice any broken boards. Our paddocks rotate fairly often. We try to keep trees trimmed. Like you can see these trees, we just did that this fall, so we still have to pick up the posts. But we keep all the trees trimmed to just above horse height there, so they use the trees for shade and they can rub up against the trees, all that fun stuff. But yeah, so just as far as paddock maintenance goes, if you've got your horse boarded out or as far as paddock maintenance goes, you want to ensure that your paddocks grow adequate amounts of grass. You want to make sure that there are no foreign objects in the field. So like I'll probably go through and pick up all these sticks. Not that the sticks are a huge deal, but another thing I do is this paddock has a bit of a problem with milkweed, which is a weed that grows up. It's quite common, at least on my property it's quite common. It usually grows up down there a bit. I try to pick a fair amount of that, and that helps us to keep our paddocks looking good, and it helps to keep the horses from eating milkweed, as milkweed isn't really that great for them. But the big thing you want to do is you want to make sure you have a safe environment for the horses. They're quite accident prone, so you want to make sure that there's no roots sticking out and above that they could get a foot stuck in. You want to make sure your fence boards are all in good repair. Your posts are good because they like to lean up against the fences. We're working on installing some electric, so that should help keep them from going against the fence quite so much. You want to make sure that there's no poisonous plants that they can get at, because that's not really good. That'd be a swift vet bill and sometimes a euthanasia. So yeah, I'm just gonna go seed this paddock and we'll see what it looks like in a few weeks. After we seed, we generally don't put anyone in here for another 2 weeks. They generally won't come out onto our paddocks until mid-May anyways, as you want your grass to be about 2 inches tall before you let anybody else out on it. If you let horses out on grass too early, then they pull the grass out right at the roots and you won't have any grass grow. So you want your grass to be at least 2 inches. In between horses, because we rotate, we tend to pick the paddocks, we tend to bush hog it to get all those weeds out that horses before didn't eat. We do pick the paddocks fairly regularly in summer. I don't like a messy paddock. It helps, messy paddocks help to have a lot of worms in the horses, and I just don't want to condone that. So yeah, that's about it. I'll show you our paddock one more time, not even though you guys have been looking at it this whole time, I'm sure. So that's our paddock. They're fair sized. Pony paddock, if you guys have seen any of our other videos, that's just right there. There's just cut in half. They winter and top, and we let them out every other day at the bottom. But yeah, if you have any questions about our paddock maintenance, you can just comment below and I'll do my best to answer you. Thank you.